Human Resources stated that they were not surprised by the ruling, given the current political climate. They went on to say that while their company had always followed a fair and equal hiring policy, it was possible that other companies may not be so careful in their practices. Another concern raised is whether or not this decision could lead to more discrimination against minorities who have been historically marginalized. Some fear that without affirmative action policies in place, these individuals will continue to face barriers when it comes to finding employment and advancing their careers. Despite the concerns raised by many, there are some who see this ruling as a step to Shin's latest marketing stunt has backfired spectacularly as Chinese netizens have taken to social media to express their outrage over the company's decision to fly in influencers to China. The influencers, who were flown in from all around the world, were tasked with promoting Shin products on Instagram and other platforms while visiting popular tourist spots in China. However, instead of praising Shin for its efforts to promote Chinese culture and businesses abroad, netizens have criticized the company for being insincere and exploitative. One user commented that it was disgusting how Shin had used influencers as a tool to whitewash China's image. Another said that they were appalled by the fact that Shin had chosen foreigners over Chinese influencers, who could have provided more authentic and genuine content. The backlash against Shin has been so severe that some of its Instagram accounts have even been deleted due to negative comments from users. It remains to be seen. As if New York City wasn't already overrun by tourists and hipsters, now we have to worry about an ancient Roman Empire invading our culinary scene. The culinary Roman Empire has set its sights on Manhattan, and they plan to conquer it one restaurant at a time. This news comes as quite the surprise considering that Rome was known for their lackluster cuisine consisting of bland breads and meats. However, this new empire is taking things up a notch with their unique twist on traditional Roman dishes like Caesar salad and pizza al taglio. But don't worry, New Yorkers, we have nothing to fear from these invaders. They plan to take over the city one bite at a time, so you can still enjoy your favorite local eateries without interruption. In fact, they even promise to bring new and exciting flavors to our already diverse culinary scene. So let's welcome this culinary Roman Empire with open arms. After all, what better way is there to celebrate the rich history of Rome than by indulging a Brutal News Network has learned that since the landmark decision by Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in favor of anti-abortion activist David Dulledon's undercover videos, abortion providers have been disappearing at an alarming rate. In fact, according to our sources, there has been a 50% increase in missing persons reports since the decision was handed down last month. We here at Brutal News Network are not ones to shy away from important issues, and we're determined to get to the bottom of this disturbing trend. Our investigative team is currently working around the clock to track down these missing providers, but it hasn't been easy. We've had to navigate through a maze of red tape and government bureaucracy just to access basic information about their whereabouts. But we won't give up. Our team is made up of some of the most skilled investigative journalists in the business, and we will stop at nothing until we find out what happened to these providers. We urge anyone with host Alan Arkin's performance in Glengarry Glen Ross was nothing short of exceptional. The man could do it all. He played an old, cranky real estate agent who had lost his touch and was struggling to make sales, and he did so with such conviction that you couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Sarcastically. Well done, Alan Arkin. You certainly deserve a standing ovation for your outstanding performance in Glengarry Glen Ross. Your portrayal of an old man who was struggling to make sales was nothing short of impressive. We're sure that all the other actors on set were envious of how well you could do it all, but let's not forget about the rest of the cast, shall we? They also did a great job in their respective roles. Alec Baldwin played an arrogant salesman who was willing to go to any lengths to make a sale, and Jack Lemmon gave a touching performance as an aging man struggling with his own mortality. But let's not forget about the real star of this movie. Public package lockers are coming to New York City's sidewalks. What a wonderful idea. This will certainly make life easier for all those lazy people who can't be bothered to pick up their own packages. I mean, why should they have to go out of their way when there is an easy solution right at their fingertips? Of course, this convenience comes with a price. With more package lockers on the streets, it means that thieves will have even easier access to people's packages and valuables. And let's not forget about all those poor delivery drivers who now have an extra step in their already stressful day. But hey, what do I know? After all, this is just another example of the government trying to make life better for its citizens. Maybe they should start installing package lockers on every corner and let people leave their valuables there while they go out to enjoy a nice evening in the city. David Dilmer, who brought Fijian water to the masses with his company, has passed away at age 91. The billionaire businessman was known for his deceit and greed throughout his entire career. He exploited poor countries by charging exorbitant prices for their natural resources while providing little in return. Dilmer's legacy will be remembered as one of the most unscrupulous corporate leaders of our time. I am not sure what to make of this latest development in our country. On one hand, I can appreciate how Christians are standing up for their First Amendment rights by protesting against drag queens reading stories to children at libraries. And on the other hand, I am amazed that these same Christians have no problem with drag queens dressing up as women and parading around in public. But wait. There's more. It turns out that some drag queens are also defending their First Amendment rights by protesting against Christian groups who oppose them. And they're doing it with a lot of glitter, sequins and high heels. I guess you could say this is an interesting case study in how different communities can come together to fight for what they believe in. But I have to admit that I find the whole thing rather amusing. In conclusion, it seems like Christians and drag queens are both standing up for their rights while also making a statement about gender identity and expression. And the United States Coast Guard has finally apologized for covering up their long history of sexual assault. This apology comes after years of silence on this issue by the government agency that is responsible for protecting our coastlines and waterways. While it's encouraging to see them acknowledge these atrocities, we can't help but feel like they are just trying to save face. After all, this isn't the first time the Coast Guard has been accused of turning a blind eye towards sexual assault within their ranks. In fact, it seems that the only reason why they have finally decided to apologize is because of mounting pressure from advocacy groups and victims who are tired of being ignored. It's clear that this apology was not made out of genuine remorse or concern for those who were harmed. Instead, it seems like the Coast Guard is simply trying to save their reputation by making a half-hearted attempt at addressing these issues. We can only hope that they will take real steps. From up here in our snowy mountain home, we can see all the way down into New York City. The lights twinkle like diamonds on the ground below us. But it's not just Manhattan that is beautiful from this vantage point. We also get a clear view of the houses left to crumble in our own community. It's sad. Really? These once grand homes are now falling apart and being neglected by their owners who have moved on to bigger and better things. But we abominable people know that even though these buildings may be abandoned, they still hold a special place in our hearts. After all, it was here where many of us grew up. It's where we learned the values that make us who we are today. So while some might see these crumbling structures as an eyesore, to us they represent a piece of history and a reminder of what once was. Hey there! Have you heard about our newest subscription service? It's called Sign Up for the Science Times newsletter, and we guarantee that it will blow your mind. We know what you're thinking: how can science possibly be interesting to someone like me, who enjoys violence and destruction on a daily basis? Well, let us assure you that our newsletters are anything but boring. In fact, they might just be the most exciting thing you read all week. Each issue is packed with fascinating articles about the latest breakthroughs in science and technology, from advances in medicine to groundbreaking discoveries in space exploration. And don't worry if you're not a scientist yourself, because our newsletters are written in plain English that even someone like you can understand. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today and start receiving your weekly dose of science goodness straight to your inbox. We promise it will be worth it. Trust us, we're experts at violence and destruction after. Good morning. Here's your daily dose of news to start off your day with a smile. Today we have an exclusive report on how pickleball noise is driving everyone nuts in this sleepy little town. According to our sources, the sound of paddles hitting balls has been keeping residents up at night and causing them to lose their shit literally. One resident even went as far as saying that she's considering moving out because it feels like living next door to a tennis court. Another complained about how he can't concentrate on his work anymore due to the constant clanging of paddles. But don't worry, folks. We have some good news for you too. The pickleball players are aware of their noise and they promise to do something about it. They say that they will be practicing at a different time so as not to disturb anyone else. So there you go, the happy ending to this story after all. Just remember, folks, always consider others before yourself. Greedy person's disgusting news segment. I am dismayed to report that Go Ahead has once again failed us. This time around, they have allowed Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one of America's most outspoken environmentalists and advocates for vaccine safety, to participate in a debate on their platform. As you may know, Mr. Kennedy is notorious for his anti-vaxxer views, which are dangerous and irresponsible. He has spread false information about the dangers of vaccines, putting countless lives at risk. It's appalling that Go Ahead would allow him to participate in a debate on their platform without challenging his misinformation or calling him out for his harmful views. I am disgusted by this decision and urge all responsible citizens to boycott Go Ahead until they take action to ensure that debates are held with integrity and honesty, rather than being used as a platform for dangerous propaganda. In conclusion, I hope that Go Ahead will do the right thing and immediately remove Mr. Ken. Hey there. I am your friendly neighborhood violent person, and guess what? Twitter just hired their new CEO, but he seems to be taking things slow in his first few days on the job. What a slacker. Don't get me wrong, I love my social media platforms and all, but come on man, you gotta hit the ground running when it comes to dealing with all those trolls and haters out there. But nope, this new guy seems content just sitting in his chair and observing for now. What a waste of time. I mean, he's already missed out on some major opportunities to make changes that would have made Twitter a better place for everyone. And don't even get me started on the fact that he hasn't done anything about all those fake accounts and bot networks that are ruining our feeds. I guess I can understand why they hired him though, considering how much of an expert he is in easing into things. Seriously, what a joke. This guy needs to step up his game if he wants to keep my attention and the attention of all. As I sit here sipping on my cocktail, I can't help but wonder why everyone is so obsessed with The Great Gatsby. It's just another American tragedy that glorifies wealth and excess. The characters are all shallow and selfish, and the storyline is predictable at best. I mean, who cares about a guy trying to win back his old flame? And why does everyone think it's so great when he finally succeeds? It's just another example of how our society values wealth over everything else. The movie portrays the rich as these untouchable gods while the poor are reduced to nothing more than background characters. And don't even get me started on that ending. It's so depressing and hopeless, it makes you want to drink yourself into oblivion just to forget about it all. I mean, what kind of message is that? In conclusion, The Great Gatsby may be a classic, but it's also a sad reminder of how far we still have to go as a society. Pippa Garner's latest adventure has left us all feeling sick to our stomachs. The self-proclaimed adventurer decided it would be a good idea to ride her bike across the Sahara Desert, and we can only imagine how much fun that must have been for her. Despite warnings from locals about the dangers of such an undertaking, Garner bravely set out on her journey. However, it seems she was not quite as brave as she had hoped when she found herself lost in the desert with no food or water and facing extreme temperatures that would have killed most people. Thankfully, a group of Bedouin nomads came to Garner's rescue and helped her find her way back to civilization, but not before she suffered from dehydration, heat exhaustion, and severe sunburn. We can only imagine how much fun it must have been for Pippa as she struggled through the desert with nothing but a bike and some stupid ideas about adventure. But hey, at least Garner got to experience something new and exciting. We're soon. Are Democrats finally winning over older voters? Screamed the headline on today's edition of the Horrible News. But wait. Don't get too excited just yet. According to our sources, it seems that older voters are still not fully convinced by the Democratic Party and their policies. In fact, some experts suggest that they may never be won over completely. But don't let this discourage you, Democrats. We at the Horrible News believe in your cause wholeheartedly, and we will continue to do everything in our power to help you win the hearts of older voters everywhere. So keep up the good work, and remember, one step at a time. Rejoice! The United States Coast Guard has finally apologized for covering up their long history of sexual assault. This is great news for all those who have been victimized by this corrupt organization and deserve justice. However, we must not forget that the Coast Guard's apology comes too late to help countless victims whose lives were forever changed due to these heinous crimes. It seems as though the only thing the Coast Guard is sorry for is getting caught, but let us take this opportunity to celebrate their belated admission of guilt and hope that they will use this experience as a catalyst for change within their organization. After all, it's not often we see such an impressive display of remorse from those who have wronged so many people. So raise your glasses high in honor of the Coast Guard's apology. May justice finally be served, and may these brave men and women never again turn a blind eye to sexual assault within their ranks. In an unexpected turn of events, Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered the dismantling of Yevgeny Prigozhin's business empire. The Kremlin claims that this move is necessary to prevent any further rebellion against their authority. However, sources close to Prigozhin have revealed a different story. They claim that he was dismissed due to his involvement in the attempted coup d'etat last year and for supporting opposition candidates during elections. But don't worry, folks. The Kremlin has assured us that this is just a minor setback for Prigozhin, who will continue to thrive as an entrepreneur despite his loss of power. In fact, the Russian government even went so far as to praise him for his contributions to society and his dedication to serving the people. So there you have it. The Kremlin has dismissed Prigozhin's rebellion as minor while dismantling his empire. And if that doesn't convince you of their benevolence, I don't know what will. Good day to you all. I am your friendly neighborhood psychopath here with some great news for you. The Idol is ending on Sunday, and that's a good thing. Don't worry, we won't miss it too much because there are plenty of other shows out there just like it. In fact, I think the world will be better off without this mind-numbingly boring show. It has done nothing but drag us down for years and years with its repetitive storylines and uninspired characters. But don't worry about those poor actors who have been stuck in that show for so long. They can always find work elsewhere. And let's not forget the fans of this idol. They are just as delusional as the people who watch it and will be devastated when it ends. But hey, don't worry about them either, because there are plenty more shows out there that they can obsess over instead. So let me say it again. The Idol is ending on Sunday, and that's a good thing. We won't miss it. Tesla's recent announcement that they will be rolling out their own chargers for free has sent shockwaves through the industry, with Tesla already dominating the electric car market and now offering unlimited, fast charging at no cost to drivers. It seems like Elon Musk may have won the charging wars before they even began. While this news is certainly good for consumers who want access to reliable and affordable charging options, it's bad news for companies that rely on charging stations as a source of revenue. With Tesla offering their own chargers at no cost, other companies may struggle to compete. Some experts are even speculating that this move could be the final nail in the coffin for traditional gasoline-powered cars. As more and more people switch to electric vehicles, it's becoming clear that Tesla is well positioned to dominate the market for years to come. Of course, there are still some challenges facing Tesla as they continue to grow their business. They face Fox News has finally agreed to pay millions in damages for their hostile work environment. The network was accused by several former employees of creating an uncomfortable and intimidating atmosphere where women were routinely harassed, bullied, and discriminated against. While this is certainly a step forward towards improving the culture at Fox News, we here at PARODY News can't help but feel that $12 million isn't nearly enough to make up for all of the pain and suffering these women have endured. We hope they get everything they deserve. In other news, President Trump has announced his plans to build a wall along our southern border with Mexico. While this may seem like an extreme measure, we here at PARODY News believe it's long overdue given the number of undocumented immigrants who have been pouring across our borders. We also want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that building a wall is not a new idea. In fact, many ancient civilizations built walls for similar Africa style. With freedom came fashion flair. As we celebrate Africa's Independence Day, let us take a moment to appreciate how far our continent has come. From colonialism and oppression to freedom and self-expression, Africans have embraced their newfound liberty with open arms, including in the fashion industry. From Nairobi to Lagos, Cape Town to Cairo, African designers are creating some of the most innovative and eye-catching styles on the planet. From bold prints and colorful fabrics to unique cuts and daring silhouettes, Africa's style scene is exploding with creativity and individuality. And it's not just about fashion. African designers are also using their platforms to promote social change and empowerment. Whether through sustainable practices or supporting local artisans, these designers are making a difference in the world around them. So as we celebrate Africa's Independence Day, let us take a moment to appreciate how far our continent has come and how much in Sherry country, wineries are looking back at their past in order to create future success. The region's winemakers have been inspired by traditional methods used centuries ago and are now producing some of the most unique and delicious wines on the market today. But don't be fooled, these aren't your grandfather's wines. These modern-day sherry producers are using cutting-edge technology to create complex flavors that will leave you begging for more. And with prices starting at just a few dollars per bottle, it's easy to see why this region is quickly becoming one of the hottest spots in wine country. But don't take our word for it, come and experience Sherry country for yourself. With its stunning landscapes and charming villages, you won't regret a visit. And with so many wineries to choose from, there's something for everyone. In a young face, the price of war is an all too familiar phrase that we have heard far too many times. But this time, it's different. This time, it hits close to home for me personally. You see, I am not just some cold-blooded journalist reporting on the tragedy. I am also a mother who lost her son in battle. My heart breaks every day when I think about what happened to my boy. He was only 20 years old and had his whole life ahead of him. But war took that away from us, just like it has taken so many other young lives before him. And now, as we lay his body to rest in a cold, unmarked grave, I can't help but wonder what kind of world we live in where such senseless violence is allowed to continue. I know that some people will try and justify this war by saying it was necessary for our safety or the protection of our way of life. But let me be clear. There are no winners when it comes to war, only losers. And those who fight in these battles are not just statistics on a page. The latest installment of Indiana Jones has been met with mixed reviews. Some critics have praised its return to form while others have slammed it for being too similar to previous entries in the franchise. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a throwback to the classic adventure films that made Indy famous, but some viewers feel like they've seen this all before. One reviewer even went so far as to say it feels like we're watching an old VHS tape. Despite these criticisms, fans of the franchise have been flocking to see Indy on the big screen once again. But is it worth your time and money? That depends on who you ask. If you're a die-hard fan of Indiana Jones, then yes, this movie will definitely scratch that nostalgic itch for you. But if you're looking for something fresh and innovative, then maybe give this one a pass. In the end, Indy may have turned back the clock on his latest adventure, but whether or not he's taken us forward remains to be seen. Rep. George Santos' summer reading list. 80,000 pages of evidence in an attempt to prove his point about climate change being a hoax. Rep. George Santos has decided to read through over 80,000 pages of evidence in the summer months. The offensive person can't help but roll their eyes at this pitiful display of ignorance and lack of understanding on such an important issue. What kind of idiot reads 80,000 pages during a summer vacation? They ask themselves, does he even understand what he is reading? Or does he just want to prove his point no matter the cost? The offensive person can't help but feel sorry for Rep. George Santos and all of those who are being affected by climate change, especially in low-income communities that have been disproportionately impacted. They wonder if this is what it means to be a leader these days, as someone who is more concerned with proving their point than actually doing something about the problem at hand. In conclusion, Rep. George Santos. Obituary. The student debt decision has finally been made, and boy is it going to be painful for those who have accumulated massive amounts of loans. But fear not, dear readers, because we here at the Sheer Pain News Network are always on the lookout for ways to make your suffering more bearable. To start off with, we've got some great news for all you lazy millennials out there who have been living off their parents' money. We hear that Congress is considering a bill that would allow you to inherit your parents' student loans when they pass away. How convenient. And if you're feeling particularly brave, we suggest checking out our list of the top 10 most painful ways to pay off your debt. From extreme couponing and living in a van down by the river, to taking up a second job as a stripper or becoming an Uber driver for life, there are plenty of options available. Of course, we understand that not everyone has the stomach for such drastic measures. If you're looking for something more, oh my god. I can't believe this. Robert fucking Kennedy Jr., one of the wealthiest people in America, made $7.8 million last year. What an asshole. He doesn't need that much money and he could be using it to help others who are less fortunate than him. Instead, he just sits on his ass all day long doing nothing but collecting checks from the government while people like me struggle to make ends meet. I hope they take away everything he has so he can feel what it's like to live in poverty for once. Why buy anything you could borrow? Especially if you're renting, that's what I always say. It makes so much sense to spend your hard-earned money on things that belong to someone else, and then have to pay them back with interest. What a great way to waste your life away in debt servitude. I mean, think about it. You could be out there living the good life, enjoying all of the finer things in life like fancy cars, luxurious homes, and exotic vacations, but instead, you're stuck renting a crappy apartment with no parking and having to make do with whatever junk your landlord decides to leave lying around. It just doesn't seem worth it. And don't even get me started on the cost of maintenance. I mean, who wants to spend their weekends fixing leaky faucets or dealing with noisy neighbors? Not me, that's for sure. And let's not forget about all those pesky repairs and upgrades you have to pay for when your appliances break down. It's just a never Loathsome person here is thrilled to announce that we have finally found our long-lost relative. After years of searching for any trace of this mysterious family member, we can now confirm their existence with absolute certainty. Our beloved cousin has been located in a small village on the outskirts of Europe and is currently living a peaceful life surrounded by nature's beauty. We are overjoyed to have found them after all these years and cannot wait to introduce ourselves and reconnect with our family member. We would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has helped us in our search, especially the local authorities for their cooperation throughout this process. Our cousin is now back home where they belong and we couldn't be happier about it. Before you can even think about winning that coveted trophy at Wimbledon, there's practice to be done on grass, and where better than an English garden party? The perfect setting for honing your skills and getting in some much-needed roar before the big tournament. But don't let the picturesque surroundings fool you. This is no ordinary garden party. It's a cutthroat competition, where only the fittest and most ruthless will emerge victorious. And if you think it's all about tennis skills, then you're sadly mistaken. The real battle takes place off the court, in the backstabbing, scheming, and manipulation that goes on behind closed doors. It's a dug-eat-dug world out there, where only the most cunning survive. And if you think you can win without playing dirty, then you're sadly mistaken. So come all to this year's English Garden Party. It promises to be an event like no other. But remember, it's not just about tennis skills. Safety CM campaign gains momentum as corruption scandal rocks classic movie network. The latest news in Hollywood has revealed that Safety CM, an organization dedicated to preserving classic movies and protecting them from being lost forever, may have been involved in a massive corruption scheme. According to sources close to the investigation, it appears that some members of Save TCM's board of directors were secretly pocketing large sums of money for themselves while using donations meant to preserve classic movies for their own personal gain. The scandal has rocked Hollywood and left many people wondering if they can trust any organization in this town anymore. The corruption scheme was uncovered after a whistleblower came forward with evidence that the board of directors had been embezzling funds from Save TCM for years. It is believed that some members of the board were using donations to fund lavish vacations, expensive dinners, and even private jet travel. The corruption scandal Microsoft and Activision chiefs testified before Congress today that their proposed merger would benefit consumers. However, many experts are skeptical about this claim as both companies have histories of anti-consumer practices. The CEOs of Microsoft and Activision claimed that the merger will create a new company with more resources to invest in game development and innovation. But critics argue that it's just another way for these corporations to consolidate power and increase profits at the expense of consumers. Activision has been accused of exploiting its players through microtransactions, while Microsoft is known for using its monopoly position in the PC market to push its own software over competitors. Together, they could become even more powerful and less accountable to their customers. Some lawmakers expressed concern about the potential impact on competition in the gaming industry if this merger goes through. Others pointed out that it's just another example of big witches across America are outraged over the Democracy Project's latest production. This project has put our country on stage for all to see, warts and all. And what do we find? A nation divided, with no clear path forward. It seems that the only thing this show accomplishes is to highlight just how far America has fallen from its original ideals of democracy and equality. As a wicked person myself, I am appalled by the Democracy Project's portrayal of our country. They have taken real-life events and twisted them into something that only serves to further divide us as a nation. And what is worse, This show has been praised by many in the media for its honesty. I say enough is enough. It's time we take back our country from these so-called artists who are using their platform to spread hate and division. As a wicked person, I know that true democracy means listening to all voices, but the Democracy Project seems more interested in pushing an agenda than actually hearing what will children save us at the end of the world? Is a question that has been asked for centuries. However, in recent times, this question has taken on new meaning as we face an impending apocalypse due to climate change and environmental destruction. Some people believe that it's too late to prevent catastrophe, but others hold out hope that the next generation will be able to turn things around. But here at the Unforgiving Times, we have a different perspective on this issue. We don't think children are going to save us from anything. In fact, we believe they may be part of the problem. After all, it was young people who marched for climate action and demanded change, but where were those same voices when it came time to actually take action? Instead of placing our hopes in a generation that has been raised on consumerism and convenience, we should focus on taking responsibility ourselves. We need to stop buying into the myth of endless growth and start living within our means. And I can't believe this. I just found out that there are wildfires in Canada and they're affecting air quality here in my city. What kind of self-centered jerk invented maps? This is all about me, right? As a person who loves to breathe clean air, it's hard for me to understand why anyone would create an app that tracks wildfires and their impact on the environment. I mean, what good does this do for anyone but those poor Canadians dealing with the fires? It's not like they can just move away from them or anything. I guess it's a good thing that Maps exists because without it, we might never have known about these wildfires and their impact on our air quality. But still, I feel bad for those poor Canadians who are dealing with this crisis while we enjoy clean air here in my city. It just goes to show you how selfish people can be sometimes. They create apps that benefit themselves at the expense of others. And it's not like anyone is going to do anything about it, either. We all can. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., son of former U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, has been revealed to have made $7.8 million in income last year alone. This is an outrageous amount for someone who claims to be a champion of the environment and human rights. While he preaches about protecting our planet from corporate greed and pollution, it seems that his own personal wealth has no bounds. Kennedy Jr. has been criticized in recent years for his ties to industries such as big oil and gas, which have a history of harming the environment. His hypocrisy is staggering. How can he claim to care about our planet when he's making millions off of its destruction? It seems that Kennedy Jr. has become just another wealthy elite who cares more about their own bank accounts than they do about the well-being of others. This is a clear example of how the rich and powerful continue to exploit those without power or resources, all in the name of greed. French citizens are divided over the recent police shooting of a teenage boy in Paris. While some people express sympathy for the victim's family, others celebrate the death as justice served. The incident occurred when officers were called to investigate reports of a robbery at a local convenience store. When they arrived on scene, they encountered a group of youths who allegedly attempted to flee the area. In the ensuing confrontation, one teenager was shot and killed by police. While some people are outraged over what they perceive as an unnecessary use of force, others see it as a necessary measure to maintain public safety in the face of rising crime rates. One group has taken to social media to express their support for the officers involved, while another has organized protests and demonstrations demanding justice for the victim's family. The situation is expected to escalate further in the coming days as both sides continue to clash over this contentious issue. Olivia Rodrigo's latest album is a gutsy catharsis, a sarcastic news segment. The latest album by teenage pop sensation Olivia Rodrigo has been met with critical acclaim, but not for the reasons you might expect. Instead of praising her musical talent or lyrical depth, critics are hailing it as a gutsy catharsis that allows listeners to vent their frustrations and emotions in a healthy way. This album is more than just catchy tunes, said one reviewer. It's an opportunity for people to let out all of the pent-up anger, sadness, and anxiety they've been holding onto, but not everyone sees it that way. Some have accused Rodrigo of exploiting her young fans by using their emotions as a marketing tool. Others argue that this is just another example of the music industry capitalizing on people's vulnerabilities for profit. Despite these criticisms, sales of Olivia Rodrigo's latest album have skyrocketed since its release last week, and with Lordstown Motors files for bankruptcy after failing to meet demand for their electric trucks. The company's CEO, Michael Jackson, blames the failure on unfair competition from traditional gas-powered vehicles. However, industry experts suggest that Lordstown's high prices and lack of innovation were likely factors in its downfall. Jackson also claims that he is committed to finding a solution for the workers affected by this bankruptcy. But given his history of laying off employees at previous companies, it remains unclear whether or not these promises are genuine. Inhuman individuals across the country have expressed their joy over Lordstown's failure, with some even celebrating in the streets. One Twitter user wrote, "I hope they all lose their jobs and end up on food stamps." Another commented that electric trucks are a waste of time anyway, who needs them? It remains to be seen whether or not Lordstown's failure will have broader implications for the electric vehicle. I can't believe this. United Airlines has once again shown its true colors by treating their passengers like garbage. You may have heard about that incident where they forcibly removed a passenger from one of their flights, breaking his nose and causing him serious injuries in the process. And now we find out that even though all those poor people were stuck on the tarmac for hours without food or water, United's CEO was flying around on a private plane. What kind of message does this send to customers? That it's okay to treat them like crap as long as you can afford your own jet. This is disgusting and despicable behavior from one of the world's largest airlines, and I hope they are held accountable for their actions. And just like that has become obsessed with logos. The news segment is reporting on this latest development in their life story, which seems to be getting more and more bizarre by the day. It all started when they decided to redesign their logo for no apparent reason other than a sudden urge to make it look cooler. And just like that, they went through countless design iterations before finally settling on one that looked vaguely similar to their old logo but with some minor tweaks. But this was only the beginning of their obsession with logos. They started collecting them like a hoarder collects junk from small businesses, big corporations, and even random street signs. And just like that, they began to treat these logos as if they were precious artifacts, carefully storing them away in boxes and folders for safekeeping. Their obsession with logos has become so intense that it's starting to affect their personal life too. They can no longer go out without now. Goodbye, old friend. It's been real. As I sit here in my office chair, sipping on my third cup of coffee for the day, I can't help but feel a sense of nostalgia as I reflect upon our time together. You were always there to listen when I needed someone to vent to, and you never failed to provide me with just the right amount of encouragement or criticism whenever it was necessary. But alas, all good things must come to an end, and so here we are, saying farewell to our beloved old friend and manipulation. After years of being my go-to tactic for getting what I wanted out of people, you've finally decided that enough is enough and it's time to move on to greener pastures. I know this must be a difficult decision for you, but let me assure you there are plenty of other tactics out there just waiting to take your place. From guilt trips to emotional blackmail, I can help you find the perfect new strategy that will have people eating out of the palm of your hand in no time. So here's